Hi everyone, hi YouTube viewers. I'm Sarah Krueger. I'm the investigative reporter for WRAL.
Hey everybody, I am WRAL's Heidi Kirk.
And we have both been doing a number of stories recently about traffic involving crashes. So we just wanted to come on here and talk about our reporting. I know I did one of these a couple of days ago that hopefully you all saw about the crashes, the top 10 crash sites in Wake County. So now I did a story about the top 10 crash sites in Durham County. I got that data through a public records request that I filed with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, asking for the top 10 intersections with the most crashes, and those would all be on state maintained roads. So I wanted to show you the top 5 from Durham County and from Wake County. So we're gonna go backwards here to really build up just like a drum roll here. Number 5 in Durham County. This is the intersection of I-85 and Guess Road with 21 crashes, and this is in the first half of this year. So this is an intersection that's in the northern part of the city, and it's right by a Bojangles, really busy area with like a lot of gas stations there, a lot of businesses, of course, also right by the interstate. And something to note for all of these crash sites is being state maintained roads. That's a lot of highways, obviously more traffic involved. So the DOT was pointing out, more traffic likely to equate with more crashes. So then on to number 4, in the Durham County intersections. This is NC 54 and NC 55 with 23 crashes. This is more, in the southern part of Durham County. Also a lot of businesses in that area. Very busy interchange there. And then number 3, we have I-85 and Roxborough Street with 23 crashes. This is in the northeastern part of the city. And this is a part of the city, this intersection in particular, actually one I've been covering since 2021 at least, is when I found a story I had done there a while ago. I used to live close to this area, so I'm super familiar with this area. And man, it is just super, super busy all the time. And then number 2 in Durham is actually right next to number 3. It's I-85 and Avondale Drive with 25 crashes. And again, you could walk super easily. Well, I don't know if you would want to walk given what we're talking about, but this is very, very close to that other intersection that I just mentioned. So that stood out to me that these were very close together. And then number 1 in Durham County, Interstate 40 and NC 55 with 28 crashes. Again, this is in more of the southern part of the city. You can see on the map there, it's by Lowe's Grove Middle School. We got some hotels and other businesses in the area. So that's Durham County. Now we're gonna go on to Wake County. Number 5 is I-40 and Saunders Street. You got Sam's Club right there and NC State. Number 4 is I-440 and Wake Forest Road. Number 3 is I-440 at Glenwood Avenue. You're seeing a trend here, a lot of I-440. And number 2, I-440 and Capitol Boulevard. And then number 1 is, this one's right by the airport, I-40 and Aviation Parkway, also known as State Road 1002, for those of you all who follow the very technical names. But this had 44 crashes in those first 6 months of this year. And this is where I went out when I was doing my Wake County crash story. I went out there, talked to drivers, and I went to a gas station nearby at the Sheets, and just, as we do, you go up to random people getting interviews, and the second person that I approached was like, oh yeah, I've been in a crash right there. So just shows how common it is. And his crash was, he said, 8 years ago, so maybe it's been an issue for a while there. But yeah, so that's the findings of my reporting. All this data is from the State Department of Transportation, and we have all these top 10 lists for both counties on our website, WRAL.com. You can go to the Investigate section and find all of that there. And another thing I asked the DOT was, obviously, knowing this, what are you doing to try to make it better? We have all of that on our website as well. All right, so those are the lists, the top 5 for Wake County and for Durham County. All of this, again, was data I obtained through a public records request with the State Department of Transportation. So interesting stuff there.
Absolutely. And Sarah, I actually watched this story, and I wanted to ask you this question as I was watching it. Is there anything that stands out to you is making these these areas similar?
I think, the number one thing would be the volume of traffic there. Thousands of cars passing through a day. And this is data that the DOT tracks, regularly every year, and they track it for so they can use it to make these intersections better. So I asked them, what all they are doing to improve these intersections, and not every intersection had an improvement plan. The DOT talked a lot about how they have very finite resources. It's about $94 million that they mentioned budgeted annually for the entire state is what they're working with, and they maintain so many roads. The last time I talked to them about the amount, like the sheer volume of roads they maintain, they told me they maintain the second most miles of road. I could say that better, but it's okay. I'm trying. In the country, Texas was number one. So they have a lot to do, basically.
Do you have any advice for drivers as they're, seeing our reporting, headed through these areas, maybe on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think it's helpful to be aware of these intersections and maybe use a little more vigilance in them. The ones, I live in Durham, so a lot of the Durham ones stand out to me as places that I am often. And like I mentioned, I used to live, off of that I-85 in Roxborough exit, really close to there. And I was super aware as a driver when I would go through there, like, there's a lot happening here. Let me be extra cautious. And even when you're out there, you look at the ground and you just see pieces of cars around you. So it's evident that there's an issue.
I could not get that image of all the pieces just laying there out of my mind. It was just awful.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, we'll segue here.
Okay, here you
go. So speaking of dangerous intersections, what prompted this next story, and I'm going to go ahead and flip to the next slide here, is I was actually working a later shift than I normally do, and we heard that a student had been hit outside of a high school in Cary. It is Panther Creek High School. You can kind of see that scene from several weeks ago now, the aftermath of the student being hit by a car that actually ended up being driven by another student in this area. So we were out on that scene capturing this video, and it kind of prompted a bigger conversation here. So I went to the neighborhood that is right across from that high school, and what we kept hearing from people over there is this is not the first time that this has happened. It's a dangerous intersection, and there is a need for improvement here. So this is actually a quote from someone we talked to. They said, "Someone got hurt. Am I shocked by it? No." And I think that really speaks to the point here that, it's an intersection where there has been problems in the past, and it sparked a story that we actually decided to follow up on and see if they're doing anything about this intersection. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over here. We talked to lots of those people, and everybody had the same question. What are they doing about this intersection? And so it prompted us, one, to figure out if there are any solutions on the table, and also how long this dates back. And we looked into our WRAL archive and found that we have been covering stories at this intersection since 2009. So there's been a series of crashes, many of them involving students that go to that high school, which is kind of just back there around the corner. And here's the good news. We did find that there are some solutions on the table, and the people who live around there say this has taken way too long, but at least we can point to these things. So, the town of Cary has been working with the NCDOT that actually owns that road to implement some of these things. They're also working with the school district to get some real life solutions going. Now, this is what is on the table. A new traffic signal, added crosswalks, and some modifications to the median here. The thing that we kept hearing over and over that is kind of the main issue is there's this big development over here to the left, and then the school is over here. So what do you think happens? Lots of students are crossing the street down this, busy road right here. The closest crosswalk, all the way down this way. You literally cannot even see it on the screen. That is how far away it is. And so whenever it comes to these solutions that are proposed, that is a direct result to this issue that we're talking about. There not really being any safety enhancements in this area. Now, here's the bad news about these solutions. They're in the talks. They have approved an initial concept plan, and they've approved the funding, but there's still a lot more steps to go along here. Sometimes, as we know, government can be slow.
Yeah.
So this is coming in the future, but as to when exactly, that was a question that the town of Cary was just not not able to answer. They've really got to go through the next necessary steps. But eventually the hope is that we'll see these things here. But, you know, it's a really jarring story whenever it comes to a high school, you know, multiple kids getting hit in this area. It's really awful. And so, you know, I think it speaks volumes to the issue and kind of where we need to go from here. And then to kind of just wrap this up, you know, it's an important topic. Anytime we cover these things, we've both been out on these scenes where these crashes happen. It's awful, and I think it's, you know, an important topic that we need to keep covering.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know if this is something you encountered in your reporting with this, but I've done a lot of stories about Roxborough Street in particular in Durham because there are concerns like pretty much for the length of it. And it's interesting because although it's in the city of Durham, it's a state maintained road. So city leaders will be trying to make improvements, but it's a state road, so they can't really make changes. I don't know if that was an issue here as well.
It absolutely was, and that's been one of the reasons that it's taken so long to get these changes put into place. You know, we asked that question over and over. We've been covering these things since 2009. Why do we just now finally have an initial concept plan in place here? And they said, you know, there's a lot of partners involved. The town of Cary has been pushing for these changes because it's their community. They know the issues, but at the end of the day, the NCDOT has to approve every single concept. And so, you know, my main question was, why is it taking so long? And they said, we just have to consider a lot of stakeholders here. And the fact that it's right outside of a school, you know, it makes it really, really important. You have to involve them too. So it's a lot to tackle.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Heidi. And you can watch all of our reporting on WRAL.com. You can just search for these stories. And if you know of an intersection, if you have experience with any of these intersections or locations, drop it in the comments. We would love to hear from you about your experience. Thanks for watching.